Hi everybody, and welcome to another CareerFoundry live event where I'm very happy to once again introduce Dr. Humera, who you may have seen on the CareerFoundry YouTube videos, but also works at CareerFoundry and is the kind of source of knowledge for all things data analytics. So we're super happy to welcome Dr. Humera back once again. We've been doing this series of an introduction to data analytics, which has proved to be extremely popular. And we will continue to do this into the future. I'll just introduce myself and CareerFoundry very briefly before I hand the floor over to Dr. Humera. I'm William, Events and Communications Manager here at CareerFoundry. Some of you in the audience probably know who CareerFoundry are, but I'll just explain. We were founded in 2013-14, and we are an online school for career change. So this event's all about data analytics. We have a fantastic full data analytics program where you get a mentor and a tutor and a job guarantee and a curriculum that's built all in-house by our curriculum designers. And we're all behind you to get you that dream career in tech, and specifically in this case, data analytics, but we also have got some other great programs in UX design, UI design, web development, digital marketing, and we're just about to release product management too. So we really offer career change courses in a lot of different programs. But tonight is an introduction to data analytics. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be joining this evening. So if you just want to pop in the chat on the right-hand side, your name and maybe where you're joining from and maybe why data analytics interests you. We want to make this as interactive as possible, and we love to see where everybody's joining because we usually get a super international crowd. You'll see in the top right-hand corner also we've got handouts. So that's the handout that we will be using this evening. Humera will be focusing on the food delivery data set, and that's the data set that we're going to be cleaning and manipulating and also visualizing all that juicy data analytics stuff we're going to be doing with that data set. So you can find that in the handout section. If you have any questions during along, I'm going to be in the background. Any questions which are kind of more specific in the moment, I'll ask Humera as Humera's going through. If there's any general questions, maybe about data analytics or the data analytics industry, salaries, that kind of thing, I'll collect those and I'll ask those at the end. So we're going to have a more general discussion about data analytics at the end. And during the webinar, we're going to really focus in on, the task at hand because this is a workshop. I don't really have anything else to say. So Humera, I think this is the time where I say, Humera, you have the floor. And maybe also introduce yourself to the crowd, and I'll disappear into the background.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, William. See you in a few minutes from now. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Humera, and I'm a data analytics mentor. I've been with data industry for over 20 years now. I call it a data industry, but when I joined data, started working on it, there was no industry called as data industry. It was just problems that we were solving, and to solve those problems, we needed data and process those data. So what this data analysis is all about, and if you are here, this is your first introduction to data analysis, or if you have a little bit of experience with data and you're not sure if this is the career for you, I, in this next 1 hour, really want to introduce you to what this is about and how you can get started. So if you see my screen and you see the slide, I'm moving to the next one. Typically, data analysis which typically looks like a very complicated, maths-oriented, very hardcore programming-oriented field. You can roughly divide it into 5 major parts. It's a process, basically. And it starts with you identifying that there is a problem to solve. And now there can be a lot of problems to solve, and which means there is a lot of data that is being generated. Let me give you a few examples. So you joining this webinar has created a data point that, okay, this person from this region, from this background, on this kind of device is at this point in time attending a webinar on this course. So that's a data point. Whenever we go to Google and we search for something, we are creating data. Whenever we go and check the weather forecast, and it's pretty hot these days, we all know that. Whenever we check that, that's that's a data point that's generated. Whenever you look for um, traffic information or you navigate to some place, you are generating data. So, and if I go from online world to a physical world, whenever we go and we do a transaction in a bank, whenever we go to the supermarket, make a purchase, the grocery list that's there, that's a data point. And all those companies, so you are generating all this data, and all those companies that are receiving this data, they need to have a way to manipulate that data and make sense out of that data, understand that data. And that's where this pipeline that you see right now on the screen comes in. So first step of this 5-step process is you start with data collection. So you know your problem and the data that you would need for that problem. Collecting that data is the first step. But whenever we are working in a real world situation, the data that we get is not necessarily clean. There might be a lot of problems with them. We can talk a little bit about those problems later, but just to give you give you an idea, your sensor might fail, and for some time you might not get data. So missing data could be a problem. Duplication might be a problem. Let's say you are doing a survey and you have some questions to be answered. This could be another form of data collection, and some answers might be missing or some data might be duplicated when you are collecting them. It's also possible that the data that you are collecting, it's in different formats. Let's say weather, we just spoke about that. Some regions talk about centigrade, degree Celsius. Some countries talk about degree Fahrenheit. And if you collect data from multiple sources and you put them together, if you do not take care of the format of the data, if you do not take care of the units of the data, ultimately the data is not going to be the right one. So after data collection, the second step in this pipeline is cleaning up the data. And then you go towards further deeper into the analysis. And you try to find out some first impressions about the data. This is actually important. The descriptive analysis is important to give you a second chance to check if your data is indeed clean and what are the first impressions that you are getting. These are some kind of analysis that does not require any sophisticated maths. You use simple mathematical formulas like given a data point, what's the maximum value that you have, or the minimum value that you have, or the average value that you have. And you can definitely make it as complicated as you want or keep it as simple as the data is. But then this gives you a first impression of whether you are going in the right direction or not. And now, once you are pretty satisfied that your data that you are getting is clean and it's in the right direction, then you go ahead with exploratory analysis. And this is based on what field you are talking about. Like, are you from sales or marketing or business or tech or finance or whichever department are you talking about, you try to explore the data from that point of view. And we will see that in this simple application of food delivery system that in this very simple, even in this very simple application, you can actually do the analysis from 5 different point of views. And it's very important to know from which point of view you are doing those analysis, because that affects the final outcome. And finally, once you have this analysis done, you need to present that analysis. And you need to do that in such a way so that it makes sense to your audience, because you will be the one looking into the data, applying all the maths, applying all the formulas, and you'll know the data inside out. But your audience might be totally non-technical and they might not know what different formulas you are talking about. So you need to tell them a story, and you need to tell them what story your data is telling you by a proper visualization and storytelling. And let's now, enough of overview, let's now straight away dig deeper into these steps. We'll look at the problem that we are solving and how actually all these 5 steps can be applied to a real world problem analysis. So first step first, get the data. Where do we get the data from? How do we know what data do we want and how to get started? First thing is that you need to know what problem you are solving. And that's actually not a big deal because you are not solving a random problem. You are in that company business, the project that you are working on. So you know that the problem that you are solving. So for example, here we are solving the problem of a food delivery system and we want to explore some information about that. Now, where do we get the data from? I can totally imagine that the people who are behind the food delivery company, they must have collected the data themselves. But we as people who are data analysts and we are for the first time actually looking at data, we can actually get this data from online resources. A very nice resources online is a CareerFoundry blog, which I believe William will post the link to it, where you can actually find a lot of free data sets. One of the very simple places to get started if you don't want to go to this blog is just go to Google and search for data sets and just give a topic and the term data set, and Google will return you a lot of data sets on that topic. And actually, I'm not saying this on my own. This is indeed the first suggestion coming from this blog as well. Just go to Google, type the topic domain. I want to get data sets on healthcare. I want to get data sets on COVID statistics. I want to get data set on the weather forecast or Bitcoin prices or job opportunities in this particular domain in this particular region. Just name your topic and search for the data set. And Google is actually very good in returning those data sets. But Google is a general search engine. There are a lot of portals out there. One of them is one of the most popular one and a very big community of data providers is Kaggle. If you go to Kaggle, you can actually search for data sets there as well. Just go there, type the topic, and get the data. In fact, this food delivery system dataset is also coming from Kaggle. So all you have to do is go to Kaggle, search for the data sets that you want to search for. And for example, I search for a food delivery system, and then it will give you a list of all the data sets and you can pick them up. You can go through this blog later on and just explore the type of data sets that you can get. Some websites are really very general. They can give you data about anything that you want. Other websites are very specific to niche areas and specific topics. For example, this Earth data is a portal where the data compiled by NASA is there on Earth science and so on and so forth. So this is a good starting point where you can get more data. I'll come back to our slides, and here we see the second step. So this is what we just discussed, the blog on 10 great places to find free data sets for your next project. But let's say we have now found the data, and now what to do? What do we do next? So we import the data. If you find the data online, you need to have this in a tool so that you can process that. Now, this is a good time if you have not downloaded the data set on food delivery system already. This would be a time to do this, and I'll do it now here with you. And for that, there are two ways. Either I download it from the handout section, or I can go to the food delivery system on Kaggle and download the data set. So when you click download, you will see that this is downloaded, and now you can actually work on it. To work on it, there are a number of tools that you can work on. For example, Google Sheets is a nice tool where you can import data and get started with that. Microsoft Excel is another one, and there are so many other tools. It just need to handle a spreadsheet, so to say. For this workshop, let's do Google Sheets. It's because it's right there. It's free. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to install anything. Let's just go and start importing our data into a Google Sheet. So I opened a new tab. This is my Google homepage. I have an account for Google. If you have Gmail, you definitely have an account. If not, you can definitely create an account very easily. Once you have an account, you can go to the top left corner. It's my account, and I can just uh, go there. I don't need to go to my account management. I go to the three nine dots that you see here so that I can see the Google apps. So I go here and I go a little below and go to Sheets. As I said, I need Sheet because I can import the data and I'll work on it. So I now create a blank spreadsheet and let's import the data that we have just downloaded. To import the data, I go to Files and Import, and I want to upload something from my computer. So I upload it, select a file from your device. So this is the file that I have just downloaded, and it was in zip form. I have unzipped it. So this fooddelivery.xls is the one that we need to work on. So I open this and I replace the existing spreadsheet and I import the data. And now it's importing, and now I see a few columns. I see a table. So spreadsheet is presenting data in the form of a table, and to handle tabular data, we use this spreadsheet like Google Sheet. You can see that the title is currently Untitled Spreadsheet. Let's give it a nice name. So food delivery might be a good relevant name for our sheet. And let's have a look at this data a little bit before we go further. So we are still in the collecting the data step, and now we just downloaded, we uploaded this data, and we are ready to move on to the next step. And to do that, let's just explore how does it look like. So I can see that I have some fields. How many are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 parameters, 8 fields. What are they? They are the names of my client, their age group, and I see a number of orders in a month. Effect of COVID on food ordering habits, interesting. And then there is an average order value. There is preference for online payment methods. Okay, I can see if people prefer to pay by cash or pay online. Then average delivery time and average delivery fee charged. Okay, interesting. And how many data points do I have? So these are the columns or the parameters. So I scroll down and I scrolled too much down. So I scroll back up. So there are 446 rows, which means I'll increase the size a little bit so that it's even more easy to view. So there are 446 rows, which means the first row is the heading. So there are 445 data points, and it looks pretty filled up. At a first glance, I don't see anything missing. So let's move on to the next step, and I'll come back to my slides and what is our next step. So we have imported the data, downloaded it, imported it in Google Sheet, and we are already ready to go to the second step and clean the data. So let's just clean it. What do we mean by cleaning? The problems we have just discussed a little bit could be that there are duplicates in the data, there are missing values, there are maybe the data format is not the right one, and we may want to fix those stuff. So let's have a look at our data set and clean it up. Of course, if you have any questions, if I'm too fast, too slow, please let me know and we'll adjust accordingly. If something is not clear, you want me to repeat something, please let me know. And now I'm back on my sheet and I am having a look at it, how I can clean it up. To clean the data, we need, the best thing is that we do not need to do anything manually. These tools actually come up with some features to actually help us clean up the data. So let's see how we can remove the duplicates. First thing first, select the data so that Google Sheet would know which data to look for duplicates. And then to clean up the data, you go to the data menu, and here you see a data cleanup option, and there is a remove duplicates option. So we click that, and it asks us which columns to look at. So I said, okay, look at all the columns. And there is a data header row. When I click this, then it tells me, okay, there are names of the columns as well. And of course, names are easier to refer to compared to column A, column B. And then I say remove duplicates, and it goes through the whole data and it removes the two duplicates which it found, and it removed them. So instead of the 446 rows, now we have 444 rows remaining. This is very important because if you do not remove the duplicates, then actually it's a misrepresentation of the data. When you'll add things up, so for example, if I have a value 4 and it's 1 time 4, and I just say, okay, my final answer is 4, but if that 4 is occurring 2 times and I'm adding all values, then 4 plus 4 becomes 8. And that's not the right answer because my answer should have been 4. So removing the duplicates is important. Then comes in blanks or missing values. So let's see if our dataset has any blank or missing values. And to do that, we can actually apply filters. How do you apply a filter? Again, make sure that you have the data selected. You can actually go to data again, and you create a filter. As soon as you create this, you click on this create a filter, you may notice that now we have this funnel like thing on the right of each column. And now you can create a filter for each column separately. Let's see what does a filter do. By literally speaking, filter will filter out values. So you will tell it which values to filter out and which not. So based on whatever you say, it will give you some data and not let the other data pass. So what do we want to filter on? Let's say in names, we remove all the previous filters. We just say, I want to filter blanks. And I click OK. And now you see anything which was blank is now on the screen, and anything which was not blank is now not there anymore. I don't want to see these blanks. Remember when I wanted to go to the bottom of the screen, it just took me to the blank area. I don't want to go there. So let's just select everything which is blank and right click and delete. And now you see that there are no blank values left. You can also do a similar thing on the columns. Just select all the columns till the right and right click and delete columns. So now all you have is only the data and no additional blank spaces are there. But why don't we see our data? Where is our data? We have our filter there. So let's remove that because the filter is only filtering blank values and there are no blank values anymore. So we go back to the filter and we select everything and we say, okay, and now we see our data and only our data. So when we scroll down and we reach the bottom, then it doesn't show us any extra stuff. And now we have cleaned our data. We are good to go to our next step. So it's quite possible that you may want to format or change the format of the data as well. So let's go back to our screen and see what we can do here. Here, before I do anything, a quick note. There is two kinds of data points. One is numerical and one is non-numerical or categorical. By numerical data, I mean they have a numerical significance. So 5 is more than 4. 10 is greater than 9. But then when it comes to categorical data, let's say I have data related to fruits, and apple is a fruit, orange is a fruit, cherry is a fruit, banana is a fruit. Here I cannot say that apple is greater than orange or banana is more than cherry. No, I cannot do that because in categorical data, each data point represents a category. It doesn't have a numerical value. And you may even see that we can use numbers to represent categories as well. So let's say I want to represent, let's say I want to represent this, what I'm representing here, age, as 18 to 30, below 18. I know that below 18 means less than 18. 18 to 30 is more than below 18. But the text editor, the spreadsheet doesn't know that. For that, below, BELOW, is a alphabetical value, and 18-30 is actually not one number. So spreadsheet is not going to understand that. So the formatting that we may want to apply is to convert this data into some numerical form. And I'm actually interested in this delivery fee charge. Let's convert actually this data into a numerical value. We can see that it's not numerical right now. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a new column on the right, and I'm copying the whole data, and because I don't want to lose my original data. That's why I have made a copy. And now I'm doing some kind of manual find replace stuff. So I've selected this column I, and I go to edit and I say find and replace. And what I want to do is I'll replace below 25 with 25. So I'm fine losing a little bit of data because converting it into a numerical value is giving me more information than just saying below 25 is it's okay. So whenever in this column I'm going to see below 25, I'll replace it with 25. So I say I do this and I click replace all. And now all the instances, it tells me that it found 99 instances of below 25, it replaced it with 25. And I'll quickly do this for all the ranges that I have. So 25 to 50, I replace with 50. And 50 to 75, I replace with 75. And 75 to 100, I replace with 100. And let me quickly see if there is anything left which should further be replaced. And no, we have replaced all the categorical data with numerical data. So these are a few examples of what kind of cleanup is applied. And now notice time. We have spent half of the time already in just the first two steps. And this is actually important, and this is what will happen in real life as well. You will be spending most of your time in cleaning up your data. Why? Because cleaning up is so important that if you do not get this step right, then all your further steps will be based on a wrong data point. And you have heard about this garbage in, garbage out. So if your data is not right, your analysis will not be right. So now we are done cleaning up the data. Let's go on, move to the next step, which is doing the descriptive analysis. And in descriptive analysis, you look into the data so that you can get first impressions out of that. So let's do that. We'll find some average, median, minimum, maximum, do some sorting and see what the data tells us. So let's go back to our data set. It's a good idea to not manipulate your original data set directly. Rather, now whatever processing you do on a separate sheet. So I can actually create a new sheet. So I add sheet plus, and it's always a good idea to give your sheet some representative name. So since I want to do some descriptive analysis, I call it descriptive analysis. And my sheet one is representing my data, so I call that data. And what do I want to analyze? Let's say I want to analyze the number of orders in a month. So let's see what initial impression I can get here. So first I say what kind of analysis I want to do. I just give it a heading analysis. I'm increasing the size a little bit more. And of what? Of number of orders. Let's say we find average number of orders in the data set. Let's say we also want to find the minimum number of orders and maximum number of orders. And how do we do that? So again, the tool provides you a feature, and how you can access that. You can write any formula for a mathematical problem um, by starting it with an equal to. So you start with an equal to, and you say, I want to calculate average. So you start typing average, and now Google is actually giving some suggestions of what this could autocomplete to. And average is here, so I'll pick this up. And now it starts with a starting bracket. So it's now expecting our data. What should I give you an average of? So let's go and pick our data. Go where? Go to the data sheet. So I click on data sheet, and I want to get the average of number of orders in a month, which is column C. So I select column C, and notice that as soon as I selected column C, here it says data exclamation mark C column C. This actually represents that in the data sheet, select the whole column C as data. And that's exactly what I want to do. And then I'll close the bracket and I hit enter. And as soon as I hit enter, I'm back to my descriptive analysis sheet. And it tells me that the number of orders as on an average is 4.87. Okay, that gives me some information. Let me see the number of minimum orders in a month. How do I do that? Exactly the same way. I start with an equal to. I start with min, which is the one that I want to calculate, and then open a bracket, go to the data. Again, it's the column C for which I want to see minimum. I pick that up, I close my bracket, I hit enter, and oh no, I am seeing a minimum value of 0. How is this possible? Because I would assume this is the data set of people who placed some order in the system, and that's why they are there. What's going on here? So let me see what the 0 is about. I have two ways to do that. One of them we already discussed. We can create a filter and only filter 0 values. Just like we just created a filter and only picked up blanks, now we can actually create a filter and here only select clear all previous filters and only select 0. And this is one way you can do it. And I don't want to do it this way. I actually want to check all the data. So let me sort actually the data and see what's there. So I select my data, I go to data, I go to sort range, and I go to the advanced range sorting option. I tell the data that it has a data row. So now I can say, okay, I want to sort number of orders in a month and I want to sort them in ascending order. So 0 comes first, then 1, 2, 3. And I could have sorted it in descending order because then the maximum would come first and then lower, 0 would come last. So let me sort this in ascending order. I do a sort. And what do I see here? I see that a lot of columns, rows, almost 16 rows because the first one is a header. These are all zeros. What do we do with this? So this is the main point about descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis helps you in cleaning up the data as well and also give you a first impression. And now you can decide what do you want to do with this data with 0 values. So because you see it doesn't make sense. You are saying that this particular person who is in between this age did not order anything and uh, spent 600 to 900 uh, whatever dollars, euros, whatever on this order, um, which means this 0 is wrong. I have a number of options that I can do here with. One is I delete those rows. I don't want to deal with them, I delete them. The other is I take average of this whole, which I remember is 4 point something, yeah, 4.8, and I replace this with 4.8. That's also a good idea. It totally depends on you. It totally depends on the complexity of the problem. What do you want to do with problematic data? Do you want to keep and fix it, or do you want to delete that? For the sake of time, I'll simply delete this. So I'll take these and delete selected rows. And now I come back and my minimum has updated itself. And you can see that my average has also updated itself. So actually we are in the right direction. One final thing, we want to calculate the max as well. So we do exactly the same, equal to max, start bracket, go to the data sheet, select the column, close the bracket, hit enter, and we get the number of maximum orders that were placed. So this is actually giving us a little bit information as well, that of all the 445, 43 people that we have, now less because we have deleted some, people are minimum placing one order, they are at maximum placing 10 orders, but on an average, people are placing 5 orders in a month. That tells us something. And we can use this information for a number of purposes to make certain decisions. But let's go back and move on to the next step. So we have done some descriptive analysis and we are already halfway through our pipeline. And now we are ready to go with our exploratory analysis. We are now ready to go further deeper into our data. So what do we do here? Exploratory analysis is actually you exploring your data. And you means you as a data analyst, but as a data analyst, you need to know who will actually use the results of this analysis. And that's basically identifying the scope of the decision. To explain this better, let me go to the next slide. Marketing team might be interested in some marketing information. Which target group should we, or which age group should we target for our marketing um, adventures? Sales might be interested in knowing, do we need to increase the delivery people? Do we need to increase the people, the shops that we have to increase our sales? Business might be interested in knowing, do we need to add more payment methods? Are people not buying or placing orders because they want to pay by cash and we don't have the option to pay by cash, or they want to pay by a different, don't want to pay by their credit card, they would prefer to pay by PayPal and we don't have that option. So business might be interested in knowing such kind of information. The tech team, also by looking at the same data, might be interested in knowing, are our servers good enough, or should we increase or decrease the size of our servers because there is congestion at a certain point. So depending on the different teams, your direction of analysis would be different. But now you can actually go one step deeper. Let's say marketing team is the audience that we are talking about. So then comes in certain questions that you need to identify for that marketing scenario. So this is a general slide. I'll move to a marketing specific question. So let's say the marketing team says, I want to know, or we want to know, which age groups should be targeted for marketing. This is the question. How do we know? How do we answer this bigger question? Which age groups should be targeted? We need to identify certain sub questions. What is the pattern right now? Who is our current audience or current clientage? And is there a relation between the age groups and the number of orders that they are making? Is there a relation between the age group and the amount that they are spending? And so on and so forth. So, is there any relationship between the age group and their online payment preferences, etc.? So, to answer this major question, which age groups should we target, we need to answer more specific little questions. What is the age group trend? And all of these that you see on the screen. So, let's actually do this. Let's find out our age group trend. Let's find out the age group trend and number of orders that they are placing, or age group trend and their spending that they are making. So let's go to our sheet and do this. So I'm back to my food delivery data set. I'm here, and now I want to do this exploratory analysis. The first thing that I want to do is to identify which columns will be used for this analysis and what do I do with this column. So these are two questions: which column to use and what do I do with this column. And what do I mean by what do I do with this column? Do I get some summation? Do I get an average of this column? Do I count the values in the column, etc.? So let's now do this. So let's say we want to see what's the trend in age, which means the column that we want to use is our age column. And what do we want to do is we want to count each of these values. So for example, 18 to 30 is appearing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. times. So how many times 40 to 50 is appearing, how many times 30 to 40 is appearing, etc. Now, this was the difficult part. Which column to work on and what to do with this column is the difficult part. Now we'll just do this. How do we do this? We select our data, we go to data, and we do not go to data. We go to insert. I always make this mistake. We go to insert and we insert a pivot table. A pivot table is going to answer us these questions. So we have already selected the data and it's asking us, where do I create this pivot table? And let's create this in a new sheet. So I create this. So it says pivot table. Let's forget the name of the sheet for a minute. Now you see here is a rows, columns, and values table. And we need to specify the two things: which rows are we going to talk about, which columns are we going to talk about, and what are the values that we are going to talk about. So let's keep this simple. I'll show this to you first, and then you'll understand what do I mean. I need to specify my rows. So I go to the right side of my pivot table and under rows, I add rows. Now comes in the answer to the first question: which column am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about age. So I select age, and notice that as soon as I select age, here in the table, it shows me all the possible entries that are there under age. So 18 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, above 50, and below 80. What do I need in this second column? I want a count of these ages. This is exactly what we saw. How many times 18 to 30 is occurring? How many times 30 to 40 is occurring? And so on and so forth. How do I do this? I go to values and I add, what do I want to count? Age. And what do I do with the age? I want to count them. What are the other things I can do? I can do a lot of different things: minimum, maximum, sum, etc. But count is what I want to do. And what I do see here is that this pivot table actually got self-populated, and we have 18 to 30 with average 293. So 293 orders were coming from 18 to 30 age group, and 42 from 30 to 40 age group, and so on and so forth. This is in itself a very important information. And I'll let me add a few more because we wanted to see if there is any pattern between the age and the average delivery fee charged. So I come back to my data, I insert another pivot table, and I do it in a new sheet. And again, I say I want to add age information as rows, but here I do not want to just add what is the I have two options. I can do some absolute summation here. Let's do that. So one of the things that I can do here is I want to add values where it says just add average delivery fee charged and sum them. So please notice that the group 18 to 30 is spending 15,200 units of currency. On the other hand side, the above 50 people are only spending 450 in a month. And this is also a good information. So our target customer for marketing might be those people who are, depending on what the marketing team decides, maybe they want to decide that we will market our product to those people who are not using it as much, because why should you market it to those people who are already using your product too much? You want to market it to people who are not using your product as much. uh, but do you want to really target this user who is absolutely at the minimum, or do you maybe want to target the people who are somewhere in the middle, like 30 to 40 age group or 40 to 50 age group, because these are like reasonable number. We can maybe, if we target them, we'll increase our their spendings. But we can actually have a look at this number in from other point of view as well. Instead of doing a sum, maybe we can actually do an average, that what's the average spending. And here we notice that uh, this age group, above 50 age group, whenever they order, although they order less, but whenever they order, they their order value is actually quite high. So this is actually a different kind of insight that we get out of this, uh, just by changing what we are counting. Now this may say, okay, maybe above 50 people is the right audience for marketing our product, because whenever they order, they bring us a bigger value. And that's all about our exploratory analysis. So you are like super excited about what you have found. Now you would like to tell to your marketing team that, hey, this is what my analysis is telling me. So for that, you need to this kind of charts look overwhelming, and especially if the size of these charts increase, then it becomes really not understandable. So we move on to our last step, which is creating visualizations and making presentations. And you basically are on this step. So for each question that you have answered right now, identify which kind of visualization would be the best one to communicate this information in the best possible way. So let's have a look at that. So I'll go back to my data, and maybe I'll see if I can draw some kind of charts here. We have done, let's say, these two kind of analysis. One is with respect to age, the counts, and then with respect to age, the number amount of spending. So how do we create these visualizations? Again, like before, you select the data, so the data that you have, and then you go to insert, and then you insert chart. Google also proposes a chart by default. It might be the right one or it might not be the right one, but right now it looks the right chart. That maybe on the by looking at the table it was not super obvious, but by looking at this chart, it's very obvious that one client group is actually taking up 50% of all the data points. And which group is that? That's actually a very wrong chart, because I just realized that I selected this final row as well. I shouldn't have. I'll delete this. Backspace, backspace, backspace. I'll delete this chart, and I, instead of selecting the whole data, I'll select only the first rows where the real data is and not the grand total. And now I insert the chart again. And now I notice that my first biggest clientele is actually even more dominating, and that's the group 18 to 30 age group, which is 60, which is like doing the 68% of orders. And the least one is above 50, which is only 1.9%. So by using this pie chart distribution, we are also again getting this information in a much more easy to present way. And one last thing, let's have a look at what we can get from here. So again, we select our data and we insert a chart. But before I insert a chart, I might want to. I just learned my lesson that I should not work on the pivot table directly. So I'll copy this and I'll paste this in a new sheet. We saw this originally as well, that we should not be working on the original data directly. So some trend, I call this trend, and I paste the data here. Not just like that, but rather I'll paste it just the values. I don't want it to be connected to the original pivot table. So I copied this here. And now what I do, I want to have a little bit of uh, some kind of sorting here. So I can see that if I insert some rows here, and I'm just trying to sort this data so that the below 18 is first, and then 18 to 30, 30 to 40. I can't do this. Remember, we spoke in the beginning that since this is not numerical data, I cannot sort it numerically just by using the tools. Anyways, now I select this and I insert a chart. And here is a nice column chart representing how the different values are varying. I don't want a column chart here. I maybe want to see a line chart. How are my values growing? And I insert a chart which is not column, rather the line charts. And it's telling me that as you are proceeding, initially your values are higher, then your values are going down. The average order price is going down as you are going to 30 to 40, and then as you are going up, the values are going up again. And this might be some indication of whom do you want to target. And that's basically it. With this, we have completed the whole data analysis pipeline. And I'll quickly go back to the initial slide where we looked at our whole pipeline, which actually told us that it's a 5-step process. You start with importing the data, finding the data, and importing it. You collect your data, you clean that up, you do the descriptive analysis to get some first insights of how your data looks like. You explore your data deeper based on the questions the team that wants to know about, so make certain decisions. And then finally, you present that data by using visuals and telling a nice story. That's basically it. I'll go back to the last slide, and I am now very happy to take any questions that you have. I hope you found this information useful, and I'm looking forward to your questions. And Liam is back here.
Back in the room. Humera, thank you so much for that. That was really great. And I think what's fantastic is that you see it from the very first data set and you take it right into the end of the visualization. So I think you tell a story, don't you, with the data? You take it into this kind of like jumbled mess and then you pull out the insights. And I think that's exactly what it is to be a data analyst. If anybody does have any questions, just post them in the public chat or in the Q&A. Like I said, we will be posting a recording tomorrow. I'll be sending that around. So if you missed anything, it might have been a little bit fast at times, but if you missed anything, you can watch the recording again. One question which came in, Humera, I think it's a good question to kick it off from Arit is, thank you for the webinar. I noticed that in many data analytics courses, it is required to have some form of Python knowledge. Is having this knowledge mandatory to becoming a good data analyst?
That's a very good question. And the answer is yes and no. No, because to get started, what we just saw, Excel, Google is a very good starting point for being a data analyst. But these tools have their own limitations. And you can do a lot of work with them, but there would be then a limiting point. And if you want to go beyond that point, then Python would be a good idea. One little example, we actually manually replaced all the below 25 to 50 on this tool. If you would have Python, you would write a script that will go through all the data points and replace all those values. But you can live without Python as well. But if you'll have it, then life will be easier. And that's with all the technical tools. So to get started, no, you don't need it. But as you advance, it will come in handy.
Fantastic. And Maria's also asking, what level of Excel do you think is the best starting point for the data analyst career track?
If you talk about the CareerFoundry career track, then no expertise at all, because we have had students who were total career changers and they had no computer related expertise, they had no background on Excel, and we really took them from scratch. Uh, really what we did just today, from holded their hands and really brought them to the level where they started using, making their own pivot tables, doing more complicated analysis, etc. So to get started, even if you don't have any knowledge, it's good.
Yeah, I think that's great to add as well, is that the way that CareerFoundry programs are designed is that we take people from absolute scratch and we train them up with a mentor and a tutor. So you're not just alone with the curriculum. We do have a mentor and a tutor for marking the submissions, but also a mentor to give you industry guidance and also check the portfolio. So essentially on a CareerFoundry program, the main takeaway is the portfolio, and this portfolio you'll also be using in job interviews. Lola is asking, do we need programming for data analysis? Do we need to know programming?
This is very similar to the first question. Like, to get started, no, but these tools like uh, Google Sheets and Excel, they have their limitations. You can get started with them, do the whole pipeline with them, but if you want to go towards larger data sets, more sophisticated formulations, then programming would be very helpful. And then there are different kinds of programming tools. Like if you go towards databases, then there is SQL. If you go towards more data frames and data analysis, it's Python. And again, I'll give the example of the CareerFoundry course. Here we actually have a portfolio of tools that we actually cover. We know that which tools are actually very important for you to get started into data analysis, like Tableau, like SQL, like Python, and take you forward.
Heather is asking about, can you tell me how much an experienced data analyst duties would be? I suppose that's talking about salaries. But Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe we should just briefly discuss salaries. I'll actually post a link because we do often get questions about salaries, and we did write a blog article, which I posted in the chat, about CareerFoundry, about salaries within the industry. But maybe Humera, if you just want to say a couple of words.
I'll just try to summarize that salary is something where you cannot just globally say a number. It depends on a lot of things: your experience, your location, the industry in which you are going to apply. So these all make a lot of difference when it comes to salaries or those numbers. Um, but to so that's why I can't say that, okay, if you are starting off you'll get this much, because no, it will depend on in which city you are and in which industry you are. But this article, this blog article from CareerFoundry is actually a very comprehensive um, uh, one. It covers all the geographies, all the industries, and experience levels as well.
Yeah, I would also check out, just add on to what Humera said there, is that we have got some fantastic articles over on the CareerFoundry blog, also about data analytics, not just about the different tools, but also about working in the industry. And whilst I'm here, I'll also shamelessly plug the CareerFoundry YouTube channel. I think we're close to reaching 100,000 subscribers. So any additional ones, I think the video team will be very happy. But there's also some very, very good content there, and Humera and myself and other members of the CareerFoundry team have also got involved, so do check that out. Apologies if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. Ada Dolapo is asking, is there a proper class to take data analytics, and is there an affordable one? I'll just tomorrow I'll send out an email around to everybody. We do have a free data analytics short course, so that's a great place to start. And we also offer an intro to data analytics course, which is more affordable than the main program. But if you want a free short course just to get to grips with, the basic data interpretation and data sets, and some of the tools that we've been using today, definitely jump in there. Humera, maybe just more kind of like personally, but maybe it would be great to hear about your own kind of like journey in data analytics. Like, what inspired you to become, a machine learning expert and a data analyst and all that?
That's a very interesting question, and I can speak for an hour about that, but I'll keep it short. um, my journey with data actually started the other way around. After graduation as a computer engineer, I went to machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I was trying to solve intelligent problems or build intelligent systems. This is what my PhD is also in. And then to build those intelligent problems and intelligent solutions, I noticed that it needed a lot of complexity. It had a lot of complexity. But all those intelligent systems, I realize, are dependent on data. So when I first experienced that, okay, I might not need all that complexity if only I take one step back and instead of jumping on solving a difficult problem by using difficult formulation, I look at the data and actually try to solve that problem. Another side of this story is that I started my career as an academician. So after graduation, I went into the academia, started teaching, did my PhD. And then after 10, 12 years, I said, okay, I want to now experience the industry. And there I got my first job as a data analyst. So this was a very reverse engineered problem. But when I first looked into data, I was like, okay, I was sitting on a treasure and I was not using that treasure. I was using complicated tools to just scrap the data. If only I would just forget all those tools and dig deeper into data, I'll solve all the problems so simply that I said, okay, there's no going back from data anywhere else.
That's a great answer. I probably think also in the meantime as well is that data has become, I mean, if you just search data analytics on Google, and it's just become so important to businesses all over the world to pull out those insights, and ever more so, even in businesses that you wouldn't think that data is so important, it is important. And it's definitely a great career path. I know when I speak to the data analysts here, we've got a couple who appear on the YouTube videos, but they love it. And but that's great to hear your story, Humera. Fantastic. And what would be your number one recommendation to the audience who are thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to take a leap into the field of data analytics? What would your advice be to somebody who's kind of thinking, should I enter this career?
I would definitely recommend, strongly recommend, because the first thing, why do you join any field? Either you have a lot of passion, but it's not necessary that you have passion. I'm passionate about data. Maybe no. You basically join in the domain that you actually love. Maybe you love working for healthcare. Maybe you are very passionate about gaming. Maybe you are very passionate about Bitcoin forecasting. Now, what are all these dependent on? These are dependent on data. Weather are data points. Healthcare, collection of data points. Bitcoin prices, collection of data points. And you name the industry and it's actually built on data analysis. So now if you are even not sure what your passion is right now, you know that the data is such a rewarding field that if you can just equip yourself with those basic tools, you can actually move into your area of passion. And I have to add that data analysis is one of the fastest growing fields when it comes to salary rises. And according to a Forbes research, this is not going to change in the next 10 years. It's one of the fastest growing fields and it's supposed to stay the same in the future.
Fantastic. I am mindful of the time because we have gotten a lot of time, but I will take a couple more questions. Ellie is asking, is there any project that will give an opportunity for a beginner without any experience in data analytics? Again, I've posted just above here a link to the CareerFoundry short course. You will get to grips there with a basic data set and go through some of the points that we did today. So that's a free short course. I would recommend jumping in there. Heather is asking, what are the complexities that analysts face? Would it be the integrity of the data, the questions trying to be answered, or something else that might not be obvious to a person reading up about data analysts?
That's a very good question. So you get an easier. It's easier to work with the data if you know the domain. But even if not, you should always start with the data cleanup and the descriptive analysis part of the data analysis, because that would highlight some obvious problems, not so obvious problems, but simple problems like duplicates, like wrong values, outliers, and maybe one big data problem that we didn't talk about in our data set was we had the names of our customers right in front of us, and that would be a privacy issue in a real world example. So these are the things that we need to take care of, and they can go wrong if we do not take care of them. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Humera, I'm going to close the webinar here because I know I'm mindful of the time. With some time we've got allotted this evening. Thank you so much for presenting once again. I think that's a very, very valuable workshop for anybody who just wants to kind of like understand what data analytics is about, but also laying out the first kind of footsteps in that path, in that journey to a career change. So thank you once again. Also, thank you to all the audience and participants. I know we also had an audience watching on YouTube too. Once again, if you are interested in the CareerFoundry program, I would recommend checking out the CareerFoundry blog. If you're interested in the program, though, we do have an early bird offer at the moment, a discount off the full price of the main program. I've put a little sticky note at the top on the right-hand side. If you click there, you can book a call with a program advisor and talk all about the curriculum, but also the job guarantee, and also about our dual mentorship model and all the add-ons that you will get as a CareerFoundry student. So just to like to thank the audience once again for all the great questions, and Humera, thank you so much. And stay tuned, check out the CareerFoundry events page, because we've also got some great data analytics events coming up, including one, I'm going to mention one next month, which is going to be very exciting. We've got CareerFoundry's senior data scientist who is going to be doing an Ask Me Anything within reason, but it's all going to be about data. So if you've got any questions about data analytics, please bring those along. His name's Tom, and we're just going to be having a very informal chat. But if you've got any questions about the industry, definitely join that event. It's going to be awesome. But Humera, thank you again. Enjoy your evening. Humera's joining us from Munich. I'm chatting from Berlin. It's been great fun, and see you all next time. Thanks, Humera.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.